Hey, hey,
What's up, brother? How you doing?
pretty good. Yourself?
Ain't no complaints on this end. Ain't no complaints.
Good deal. Good to see you.
Yeah, man. For sure. For sure. Mm. You ain't got no hydration? Where your water at? I mean, I'm just
Oh,
asking. Okay.
hey, don't come at me with that. You know. Hey, actually, I got a
Okay, all
backup.
right. I know you used to always carry the jug. I was just wondering if is it still alive? You know what I mean? Just making
Yeah,
sure you ain't fell off.
yeah, I hear you. Oh man. So basically this is my version of a podcast. I don't know how many
Yeah,
people
all
actually
good.
listen, but I thought it'd be fun just to kind of catch up. I haven't talked to you in real detail in a
Yeah.
while. So for those of you listening that don't know who this person is, crawl out from under your rock. But
Mhm.
so I'm gonna go down the list real quick. This is a abbreviated list. We are joined by Mr. Richard Seymour today.
Thank
Uh,
you.
7 Pro Bowls, 5 All Pro, 3 Super Bowl wins, Pro Football Hall of Fame inductee in 2022.
Great.
Um, and then shifting gears, multiple money finishes at the poker table, eclipsing 500K, I believe, in total winnings. Right?
Yep,
Am I
yep,
making that
yep.
number up?
Something like
All right.
that. Something.
So my question is it reasonable to say that your most prestigious accomplishment, probably out of all of that, is making it to Heads Up with me at a home game?
At the home game, right? That's the
That's right.
biggest accomplishment ever, right there, right? Hey, just so everybody knows, Josh is a guy he loves to bluff it off to me. So I just stay there and I'll just wait for it, and he's coming like clockwork. Yeah, nah, sweet. Thank you for having me on, though. Seriously.
No, I appreciate it, and I always love catching up with you. We were all business there for a while.
Right.
When you're playing and stuff, and it's always nice to kind of hang out, and get to know the man behind the
Right.
game, right?
Yeah,
Um,
certainly.
so so that's kind of what I want to get into, because I'll be honest, like, I don't really know your background too much, like outside of from the time I started working with you. Oh, you know what? Let's start with this. I want to start with well, you can answer this if you want, but I want to start with first impressions when you and I met.
Mm,
My first impression of you, you and Tanya came into the gym and we're
okay.
looking into train and whatnot. And I knew who you were. I was actually a big fan.
Mhm.
I loved how you played the game and all that, but first impression meeting you, like, I'm not going to be like, oh man, I think you're awesome, blah, blah, blah. Like, you're coming in to train and get better. Right. But
Right.
I'll be honest, and this may be offensive to you. We'll see. My first impression, you came in like you were all about it. You're like, yeah, let's train, all this stuff. And then crickets. I didn't hear anything from you for what, a month. And I'm thinking, all right, this guy talks a big game. Like, yeah, he's a good player. But the dude doesn't want to work. Like, let's just be honest. He doesn't want to put in the work.
Well, it's actually quite the opposite. Yeah, you know what? I don't remember it that like when we might have met. That might have been like at the start of like when I was looking to train. Like I knew I was probably going to get ready to start training in maybe a month and a half or so, and I just kind of wanted to have stuff line up because some people like to be on a schedule. Okay, Josh.
Yeah.
Some of us are pretty detailed in it. So no, but it's not offensive at all. I'll just say this, like coming in, I didn't necessarily want to go to like a health club because that's like workouts, right? I wanted
Right.
to come in and train and really start to build a body that could last an NFL season. And just with all of the whether it's the double teams and the ups and the downs of a season, and it's long and grueling, just preparing your body for training camp and that sort of thing. So I just wanted to, get in and do some different training, core work, build a body that could, like I said, like last.
And there's a big difference between working out and training. I think we can
Right.
agree.
No, certainly.
And everybody can go work out and get a workout in.
Right. And I knew your
but
background too was also in, Olympic lifts. And I just wanted to make sure that the strength, the power, the explosiveness, I could just build a body that could, like I said, last the NFL season. And we also had the track right there. So we'd work out, we'd go to the track, we'd train, come back in, do some ab work. Even though you had me doing all of those stretches at the end of the workouts and stuff with the band, I was like, as soon as you walk outside, I'm like, good. All right, he's gone now. I can get out of
now it's all coming out. I get it.
there.
That's funny. But I was going to circle back though, because again, that was my first impression in my I guess assumption, which was proven wrong, right? But one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about too is like, where does that, what makes you tick? Where does that work ethic come from? I'm just curious, like in your own words, like where does that come from? Because obviously you're talented on the field, like, and I guess why I'm bringing it up, there's always, you probably don't follow anything, but like when we started working together, like I was kind of paying attention to some of the forums and some of those things. And, people were like, oh, Richard's overrated. He doesn't, at this point in his career, he doesn't even work hard. He's just phoning it in. And I got offended by that, because I obviously saw the true story. And I'm just curious, like where that work ethic comes from.
Yeah, well, I'll just say this, just in terms of, just like anything, it's going to be people that praise you, and then it's going to be motivators, right? So that's just a part of the deal. Anytime you play a professional sport, it's fans that are on your side, and it's ones that boo you when you walk in the arena. So that just comes along with the territory. But for me, like I grew up in a small town in Gadsden, South Carolina, with a hardworking dad and a very loving mother. So I tell everybody I had a great balance growing up in terms of a tough, hard-nosed dad, but taught me the value of hard work. But I also got the nourishment and the loving and compassionate side and empathy for people from my mom. And so, just that blending and of personalities growing up, it really taught me the value of hard work, treating people and doing right by people. And so from there, and I was always very competitive growing up. I was extremely competitive. And, I was very fortunate to get a scholarship to go to the University of Georgia. And 97 was my first year there. But when I first got there on my recruiting trip, the first person that I saw was Marcus Stroud. And Marcus at the time was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. He was the top defensive lineman in the country. He was a year ahead of me, but he redshirted that year, so we came in together. We played our first season together. But when I first saw him, I looked at my dad and I said, I got to get in the weight room. I mean, because he was a monster of a man, great player. But I knew I had to build my body then because I was tall, I was lean. I needed to put on a few pounds. I need to get stronger, just a lot of things where, better footwork, et cetera. So that's where I started to hone my skills. And just from a competitive standpoint, he was always somebody to look up to in terms of, here's what a SEC defensive lineman looks like. And so I always had somebody to, really try to chase, so to speak, And from there, that's like I was always very driven in everything that I did. Like I never wanted to be second in anything. Like I'd compete with everything we did. And so when I was younger, they'd always say, oh, you're a sore loser. And I'm like, well, you showed me a good loser then. You know what I mean? So like that was just my mindset growing up. And, from the University of Georgia, just went on to the, New England Patriots and, had a lot of success, in my career and was able to play over a decade in the National Football League and met a lot of great friends along the way. And so that's just a little quick and dirty, a little bit of my background. But, I live here in Georgia and we get to go down to some some dog games. You see them dogs, they showing out too. Come on now, 5 first-round draft picks. I mean, so really happy for the success of everything Kirby has been able to do there at the University of Georgia. And so just for me, man, I just, me and my wife and 4 kids, we live here in Georgia. And, I got 2 in college, 2 in high school. So, no complaints on my end.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think your influence is like on players coming up now? Do you think there's people that, I mean, and do they even reach out to you? Do you have people reach out to you just for like input and stuff that are coming up through the college ranks or even young pros? Cause I feel like just knowing you a little bit, like you've always kind of had that presence of just like experience, but willing to like share the experience too is that's the impression I've always got.
Yeah, no, certainly. I appreciate that, Josh. Actually, a lot of guys throughout the league, actually. So when you get a little long in the tooth in the NFL, so my years as a Raider, my last 2 years there, which was my 11th and 12th year in the league, they would call me the Godfather, and I'm like, well, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I was getting a little long in the tooth there, but from there, like I had a lot of my teammates always reach out, whether it's in the off season, because that was one of the years we had a lockout, and during that lockout, I the entire team flew here to Atlanta. We trained here in Swanee, Georgia, just to start to develop that bond and that leadership of, what it takes to succeed at a high level in this league and have sustainability and longevity. And so from that process, like even now, I have a lot of guys that reach out to me in terms of like, what was my off seasons like? Because, how did you train? How did you prepare your body and all of that, those things. So for me, I'm happy to give the knowledge away. And that's what I think it's all about, because when I first got to the league, I was a young guy and I was coming into a veteran team. And so I had guys and I'm 20 years old at the time, but I had guys on my team who were married with kids, and that it's just a different dynamic. So I was just able to learn so much from them in terms of how to be a true pro. What does it take to have the sustainability over the course of a career? And I think one of the biggest accomplishments for me is, it's not the Pro Bowls and, but for me, it's about when they say, hey, you're a member of the all-decade team. And so that for me is just a level of consistency, playing at a very high level over the course of not just 1 year, but over the course of a decade. And so those are just some of the accomplishments for me that just says, when you do things the right way, here's the, rewards for it. And so, I'm very grateful for the career that I've had. And, other things everybody asks all the time, well, what are you most proud of? And I think for me is I never compromised who I was as a person, my values that my family, my mom and my dad taught me at a young age. And those are some of the principles also that I try to instill in my kids in terms of the value. And sometimes, and I'll just say this, sometimes you win because of your dedication and your commitment and your drive and your willingness to compete. Like, so, we can talk about talent and, all of the things that it takes to be successful, but I think you can will yourself if you have enough talent to be the best that you can be, just by saying, you know what, I won't quit. I won't be denied. Whatever it takes, I'm willing to do it. And it's just like, I don't care if it's between me and you, like, I'm just going to get the job done. It's just a mentality that you have to play. And here's the thing, that translates not only into sports, but business, whatever it is that you want to do in life. That's the mindset that you need to have, because I see far too often people take shortcuts, and it's like, oh, well, you were a Hall of Fame player. But at the end of the day, for me, it's not like I started out this way. It was about day in, day out, being consistent, doing the little things right all the time. And then when you look back over the course of a career, it's like, oh, I see the body of work that you put together. And that's what, in my mind, makes you successful.
Well, and that's the thing too, that you touched on earlier. You said, you have no problem sharing the knowledge with other other players and whatnot, but that's only one part of
Right.
I mean, I know, I shouldn't go eat at McDonald's every meal. Right. But
Mhm.
I still have to not go eat at McDonald's and eat healthy. Like just knowing that having the knowledge is only one part of the puzzle.
Yeah, no, it's certainly, I think it's discipline and fundamentals at the end of the day, right? I think if you're disciplined about whatever, I think discipline is the key to life. If you're disciplined and you're fundamentally sound, you work hard, you treat people the right way, you know, what does it mean like to be a good leader? Like in my mind, it's about, you know, checking on guys. Like, hey, let's go grab dinner, or let's go, let's whatever it is. Like that's a part of like team building, team bonding experiences. And so, I enjoy being on the team. I think, even when you look at some of the individual sports, whether it's boxing or golf or anything else, like I think I'd rather be on a team because you get to celebrate these victories with people that putting in the same amount of work. And anything in life, when you can share it with somebody else who've experienced the same things as you have, I just think it makes it that much more rewarding.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell a couple of little stories here real quick. So just as an example that I was going to bring up. So we always, like you said earlier, we train in the weight room, and this is in the off season, train in the weight room, and then we'd go down to the track and run. Well, there was one day, and do drills and all those things. There was one day specifically that I remember the track was closed because they had something going on down there. So, I'm just kind of like, all right, well, we'll just not run today. And you're like, nah, we'll go find somewhere. So you had driven your van that day. And I
Mm.
remember hopping in the Seymour van, and we drove all over the place until we found, I don't even remember where we ended up. It was some park
Right,
somewhere, and we did all your running drills there. And I think that park was even closed actually.
right. We might have hopped the.
I think that goes to my point. Like, there was work to be done, and we were going to get the work done no matter what. Um, and that, like I said, I was more than content just being like, all right, well, we'll skip the running today. And you're like, no, like we're getting the work in. So, I just think I think that's contagious in that team atmosphere too. People see,
Yeah,
cause people see you at that level, and, just kind of assume, oh, it must just come easy to them and whatnot. And, yeah, there's obviously athletic ability there. Right. But the amount of work that people don't see, I think that's what truly separates, the good
yeah.
from the
No,
great.
I mean, I'll say this. I think sometimes, and I appreciate that story, by the way, but I think sometimes I've seen players enamored with everything that comes along with football instead of being, you know, um, meticulous about the work that's required. And when you are focused on the process of what needs to happen, then like everything that comes beyond that, like that's the reward for it. But you have to be committed to the process of what it takes, of that relentless pursuit of doing things the right way all the time. So you have to be dedicated to the process. And when you are, like, whatever the results are, that's the results. But a lot of times we want the results, but sometimes you just might want to skip out on what it really takes to get there. Or you kind of feel like, well, I did it yesterday, I don't have to do it today, whatever the case. Like, so it was confidence for me when I know I've put in all of the work. When I line up against another guy, I felt like he hadn't worked as hard as I have, so I deserve it. And so that just gives you a confidence that is really unmatched. And so every offseason, I just try to build upon, what I did last year. And, in this business, it really isn't about, it's about, you can't really look in the rearview mirror. So I never have throughout my entire career. It was always about chasing the next dream and the next goal and putting one foot in front of the other, not just over the course of an off season, but when you look back over the course of a career. And then you can look back. But I never really reflected, as a player much at all. So I never really took time to smell the roses. But, as we started this conversation, being the newest member in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, it gives me an opportunity to really thank so many that's, helped me along the way and helped me on my journey of, being still getting used to saying it, but a Pro Football Hall of Famer. And so, it's the crowning jewel. It's a tremendous honor. And like I said, I get to thank so many people that have, been there for me and helped me along the way. And, like I said, it's the crowning jewel to a great career.
Yeah. And that's one thing, even, those last couple of years that we were training, like you even mentioned it a few times, like talking to some of the guys that are already retired, that, they're reflecting now. And that's one thing that you hope. You mentioned it as we were doing a warm-up lap on the track, and you just said, yeah, I hope that, I remember all of these, like all the times and all the relationships and all that stuff, when my time is done. And I just, I mean, I heard that at the time, but I guess it didn't really sink in. But now, just like I saw the video of the knock on the door. Was it Ty Law did it, right?
Yeah, Ty came and did it.
That clicked, like what you were saying that day when I saw your face. Like it looked like you were holding back the tears, and like all of that, I think, kind of coming together and kind of hitting you all at once. And that was really great for me, just watching the expression on your face. And it's,
yeah,
I think that's
thank you.
It was really, really cool.
You know what? I'll say this, Josh. So when, like, throughout my career, like when I did workouts and that sort of thing, whether it was in South Carolina, here in Georgia, in Boston, or on the West Coast, my wife actually thought that I truly enjoyed working out. And which, like, I here's the thing. Like, I did it because I wanted to be the best and I know what it took. So I was just like, well, here's what I have to do. It wasn't even like a thought. It was like, here's what I got to do. And I just put one foot in front of the other every day. And I just did it. Right. And I enjoyed it. But even so now I think she understands. She was like, well, you don't work out as much anymore. So it's obvious you didn't enjoy working out. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I didn't really enjoy working out. She was like, no, I see it now because you done put on a few pounds. So I might have to come back over to the gym and we knock a few off.
Yeah, we'll get one in here. So I'm gonna shift gears a little bit. I didn't even say the title of this podcast, but the title of the podcast is Powerlifting and Power Ballads. We typically talk about lifting and we talk about music. So,
okay, perfect.
Music wise, like what do you, and I was getting a little bit lighter side here, but
it's cool.
what do you listen to, like when you train?
When I train, I like to listen to something that's going to pump me up a little bit. So I listen to some Rick Ross, some Young Jeezy. I even listen to some rock, like even like it. So if I'm doing like, let's say we're doing a spin class or something like that, and like, so doing something with some upbeat, high tempo motivation, and I'm yelling and just kind of goofing around a little bit. So that gets me going. So yeah.
Young Jeezy, that's my go-to.
Oh, there you go. Can't beat Jeezy now.
I like that.
Can't beat Jeezy and Rick Ross. Yeah. So what? So the music and what else you said? What was the other question?
Powerlifting, which is the sport of powerlifting, and power ballads.
Right.
But
yeah. Right.
So we don't have to go into the lifting too much. I mean, we kind of touched on that, and I guess that is one thing that I guess some people always want to know, like how much you bench or how much you squat, and that doesn't matter. Like your sport is football; it's not powerlifting. So it's like I think
maybe the most I might have ever benched is like 405.
Right.
Like most, and maybe squat, it wasn't too much more than that. I mean, it was like might be in the 500s, but it wasn't like, I'll just say this, I think I needed enough strength to build a body that wouldn't get hurt, especially as a defensive lineman. I needed to take on blocks and that sort of thing. But it wasn't like I was, bent. Like my stuff was more explosive work, right? So I wanted to come off and shock you and dominate the line of scrimmage. So like that isn't like, bench press can just be kind of, I don't know. like you don't play on your back pushing the weight around.
Yeah. And I think that's what people don't always understand either, is like, I guess from a power lifter's perspective, all that matters in powerlifting is how much you squat, how much you bench, how much you deadlift. That's it. Like, and how much you weigh. What I'm getting at is like, there's not a point for you to take your 405 bench and try to get it to 500, because the amount of extra specialization that we would have to spend to do that, is that going to make you a better player? No,
Right.
I don't think so. There's so many other things that go into being athletic and being injury free and things like that, that's what we put our emphasis on. And I think, you know, we just, as lifters, we get into a one track mind of that's, you know, just get stronger. That's all that matters. But there's so many other aspects to football that.
Yeah, no. And my whole thing is I just wanted to be an athlete, you know, just in terms of being fluid, you know, good hips, good mobility, but being also strong and durable. You know, I always enjoyed powerlifting to a degree, whether it was, you know, squats, power cleans, you know, snatches, jerks, you know, some overhead stuff. You know, and like I said, a lot of my other stuff was just, you know, focusing on the athletic side in terms of whether it's some Pilates work or some yoga stuff, and then doing a lot of stuff on the field in terms of, you know, running and agility drills and that sort of thing, just to make sure that I was flexible, explosive, you know, so and I tried to always lift like I played. So I enjoyed it, a lot of snatches. We had a machine at the University of Georgia that I'd use. It was kind of like you was in a squat position, but you know, press the weight out forward, almost like pushing someone back. So, you know, just a lot of things, you know, like that. And, you know, like I said, you know, but I enjoy powerlifting too.
Yeah. No, and, you know, I think, you know, it's definitely part of it, but it's not the only part. And I think that's where,
Right.
you know, I think it's just important for, especially like some of the younger kids I see now too, like they get into the weight room and that's great, because some don't. And I think that's a big, especially at the high school level, like that's where you can really, you know, make improvements and catch up with some of your competitors. But it is not the end all be all. Like there's more to than just lifting too. And I think that's where, you know, it's important for people to understand that. So, let's talk kids real quick. What, you got a couple kids that played football.
Yep. So 2 boys, 2 girls. I got 2 in college, one at the University of Kentucky. And, my oldest daughter's at Spelman. Then I got 2 in high school right now. So my oldest son, he played football his freshman year, got defensive lineman of the year, and then said, Dad, I don't want to play this anymore, which I don't push him. I mean, I push him to be active, but if he wants to play, he doesn't want to play, however that goes, that's their choice, you know, because so I encourage in some ways, but I don't push. And my youngest son, he didn't play, so this is his first year playing now. And so he's a freshman. He just went through B team and the freshman team. And he's going to be a pretty big kid. Like right now, he's 6'3", about 245, and, you know, continuing to grow. And he just turned 15. And so I think he's going to have some height and some ability. But I told him, and actually he got pretty decent footwork and that sort of thing. And I told him, I said, actually, you're probably taller, a little stronger than I was at your age. But I said, I don't know if you're going to work as hard as me. So that remains to be seen.
That's the key.
Yeah, no, it certainly is.
So the kids, do they ask you questions and look to you as Richard Seymour, NFL Pro Football Hall of Famer, or are you just Richard Seymour dad and you don't really know what you're talking about?
Yeah, I certainly don't know what I'm talking about, especially to my girl. Like, I've never played. I don't know anything about sports. You know, and you know what? And I think that's okay too. You know, because they see me as, as dad, and he doesn't know a whole lot about, sports and that sort of thing. But, just being, the family man and just trying to, instill the right values in them so they can go off and, fulfill their dreams in life.
Yeah, I think that's cool. I think I see that. I see that often that, really successful athletes, their kids, like even in, I mean, going back to what I know, the lifting world, like there's like really, really, really great lifters that their kids won't ask them questions, or they're like, what do you know? So I just think that's pretty fun.
Even though I'll say this, so my son, we went up to, I got in the Patriots Hall of Fame last year, and so yeah, and they were with me, and they were younger when I played, right? And I think my oldest at the time might have been in like the third or fourth grade when I played. So they have really good memories of me playing. And they have memories of at training camp and coming on the field, post game and that sort of thing, or whether it was at a Super Bowl. I got my son on my neck, while we're, when I'm hoisting the Lombardi trophy. So they have the memories there, but I think, it's been so long ago. So we went up this year to the Patriots Hall of Fame, and, a lot of my teammates came back and started telling stories about, our playing days, and they started seeing a lot of the videos, and, Mr. Kraft telling some stories about, and Coach Belichick, speaking highly of me. And I think then that's when they started to look at me a little bit different, like, okay, maybe Dad did know a little bit about the game, or I can start to appreciate him and, his work ethic. And he doesn't always just talk to me about, and I'm not just yapping to him, because at one point it was just like, oh, what do you know, Dad? You're just talking. And so just to contrast, just for them really being able to see it live and hear my teammates and hear the story. So I think for me, it was, it was a really nice experience.
So your playing career is done. How do you want to be remembered? And we'll break that down a couple parts. Like, how do you want to be remembered?
That's pretty broad.
Yeah, I know, right. So I guess, how do you want to be remembered as a player by your family? Because you mentioned family, man, and I think that's also like we see you in the games, we see you in the press conferences and whatnot, but you go home to a family. And I saw, just I know your family a little bit, right? And just the interaction, like you guys are very close knit, and I think that's pretty cool. So like, what do you feel like is going to be how they remember you, like in 50 years? Are they even going to remember you as the football player, or is it going to be completely just, Dad?
Well, I think they'll know that obviously, Dad played football, but I think for me, I want them to take the values that I tried to instill in them, just like my dad and mom tried to instill in me, just in terms of, treating people the right way, doing the right thing, working hard, loving God, like all of those values and thoughts. I think that's more important in the game, because the game comes and goes, right? But who you are as a person, and how you treat people, and living out your dreams. I'm not forcing any of them to play football. If they don't want to play, that's their dreams and desires, and they don't have to be what I want them to be. I want them to be the best version of themselves. And so I just say, hey, just give me your best. At the end of the day, whatever their best is, like, I'm okay with that. Like, your best. And I had to realize too that, everybody's best is different. And long as they give me everything that they have, and they can look themselves in the mirror at the end of the day. And also it's several things that, whether it's, discipline or being on time, and, all of the things that you can control, because there's a lot that you can't, right? But the things that you can control, I just wanted to make sure you putting your best foot forward and being accountable in that way. And so at the end of the day, for me, like that's really what matters most. And like I said, I'm honored to be their dad. I'm honored to be a husband, and those are the most important things to me in my life.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to start with that because I figured that was going to be your, where you pivoted there. But what about like the teammates you've had,
Mhm.
people just in the organizations that you worked with? How do you want them to remember you?
Um, probably start by saying a team first guy, somebody that they could count on, someone that was dependable. And if anybody gave me a task, they didn't have to wonder whether it was done right. I think I would want them to say, okay, he's a leader, he's going to do things the right way, and if we tell him, hey, this is what we need to get done, then they don't even have to check. They just know in their mind, since they gave it to me, it's done. Consider it done. And so that's just a part of, the discipline and the fundamentals and doing things the right way, being accountable to the team. And also with blocking out and ignoring the noise. Like, I think too often we get enamored with what other people think and how they feel about us. And I'll say, you think about it too. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, but it's also about the ability to block out the noise, because it's always going to be noise, good or bad. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's about, accomplishing and doing what you set forth to do. And so that's just, just a little quick and dirty mindset, just in terms of having. But and like I said, I just think for me, I just want to be. Like I said earlier, I never wanted to compromise who I was as a man to try to figure out what needed to be done, and those are some of the, I guess, most valuable lessons of, whether it's whatever organization I played for, whether it was the Patriots or the Raiders, or Georgia or my high school team. It wasn't necessarily for me. It was always about, I wanted to honor the legacy of my parents first and foremost, and whatever team that I was on, they were getting a product of what my family had built. And so it wasn't the other way around. Like, sometimes you hear organizations, hey, you're representing whatever NFL team it is. For me, I'm representing my family name first. And you guys are a byproduct of who I am as a person. And that's the true gift that I can give anyone else. And so I just think, and that's almost like, the mindset is taking care of your business first, and whoever gets you. And just like the Bible says, he who's faithful with little is also faithful with much. So I tell my kids all the time, like, if you want to be given more, like, take care of your responsibilities at whatever area that you're in. And sometimes you work your way up, work yourself up to the ladder. But if I see somebody very diligent and focused and doing things the right way with wherever they're at, then that's just saying, hey, as you get more, you're going to make sure you take care of, whatever you need to take care of at that time. And so, that's just part of the mindset of that I think it takes to have a long career or do whatever it is that you want to do in life, and have that discipline and being fundamentally sound in it.
Yeah. We'll wrap it up here pretty quick, but what was it like, when we were doing some of our running drills and stuff like that? What was it like losing to me?
Hey, you ought to know from the poker table, right? You ought to know.
Oh man, I thought I'd get you on that one. I think I got you like once or twice out of what, a couple years of work. So
yeah, nah, it's all good time. I certainly appreciate it, Josh. I think you helped me out a lot, just in terms of it was powerlifting and stretching and taking care of my body and, just helping me build a body that would last throughout an entire, NFL season. And so I'm just glad now I get to pay you back on the poker table for, all of those years of abuse.
Yeah, you know what though? A lot of that was, I say, was self-inflicted, because you can know what to do and actually push yourself in doing it is a separate thing. So, that's, again, going back to, my first impression, like I didn't know what I was getting. I didn't know how hard you were going to work. I didn't know. And I got to honestly say, like, I'm pleasantly surprised that, I don't know if surprised is the right word, but it was a breath of fresh air to see how hard you actually pushed yourself. And honestly, it was a lot of the time me just watching and I didn't have to motivate you. I didn't have to, I was expecting a lot of work. Let me just be honest. I was expecting it to be a lot of work to try to actually get somebody to invest in the off season, workouts and stuff like that. But that was never an issue with you. So
I certainly appreciate it. And I think, for me, I didn't necessarily need the motivation side. I need the experience side from lifting and what it took and the techniques or whatever, you know what I mean? So I just felt like, again, I think you need to control like the things that you can control, whether it's like we talked about, whether it's being on time, whether it's being accountable, having a good attitude, being coachable, all of those things. I think that's what it takes to make a really good player. But from like, even as a coach, like my coaches on my defensive line coach, I didn't need him to motivate me. I needed him to tell me where the pulling guard's coming from, or what do I need to look for when the tight end blocks down. You know what I mean? Like, teach me the fundamentals of the game about their game plan and how they're trying to attack me. I'll handle the rest. So I would always tell my coaches, help me help you. All right. The better I am, the better you're going to look.
That's awesome. Yeah. Oh, hey, one thing I forgot to ask you, and this is completely unrelated. Whatever happened with the Daniel Negreanu bet?
Yeah. Here's
was that. Well, first of all, was that a real thing?
No, it wasn't a real bet. We just said, because we were actually in the Bahamas together, and we were on the treadmill beside each other, and he was like, "Man, let's post this pic about, because look at your size and look at my size." It was kind of funny. We was in there lifting weights and having a good time, and so I was like, "Yeah, no, let's do it." But just because I was almost like a foot taller than him and probably about 150 pounds heavier, and so it just was he was a cool guy and good for the game of poker.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite players. And you texted me and said you had a bet with him or something like that, and I just assumed it was real. So I'm like,
yeah, no, I wasn't. We didn't.
This guy's not as smart as I thought. Negreanu is not going to win.
Right. Tell him he isn't going to win that one.
Yeah,
I get him on the river.
Yeah. Oh man, but hey, Rich, I really appreciate you being on, man. It was good catching up.
No, certainly.
We'll definitely
thank you so much. And like I said, anytime you need me to come on, I'll come in. And like I said, I certainly enjoyed it. So actually, don't run from me on the poker table. Let all the listeners know that you haven't been over in a while. And I know you got married and the whole thing, but you hadn't been over in a while. So I want to make sure you stop running from me.
I'm not running. You know where to find me.
No, sounds good. I certainly appreciate it, though. Enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, you as well.
All right. Take care.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode of the Powerlifting and Power Ballads podcast, please remember to subscribe and share it with your friends.